trade uncertainty continues to weigh on the minds of producers. The Association of Equipment Manufacturers cites new data showing that American businesses paid a record of $6.8 billion in July due to Chinese tariffs. Joining us now with an update is AEM Senior Vice President of Government and Industry Affairs, Kip Eideberg. Thanks for joining us, Kip. So let's start with some of the highlights from this new data and the impact of tariffs on American workers and their families.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Christina. As you mentioned, unfortunately, July marked a pretty dire milestone in this trade war, $6.8 billion, a record-breaking $6.8 billion in additional extra import tariffs that consumers and businesses have had to pay. And overall, since the trade war started in July of 2018, actually a little earlier than that, $30 billion have been paid by U.S. consumers and businesses. And, we are of the opinion that obviously there are still some issues that we need to hammer out with our trading partners, but this is not the way to address those. Tariffs at the end of the day are being paid by consumers and businesses, and we're seeing a real impact on our industry as a result of it.
It does seem at this particular point in time that tensions have eased up a touch. But what would happen if the tariff situation worsens, if we can't come to an agreement in September or later this month or even in October?
Well, it's a great question. For us, it's very simple. When farmers prosper, our industry prospers. And right now, as I'm sure many of your viewers know very well, farm income is the key driver for ag equipment sales. And this trade war, and particularly the retaliatory tariffs that the Chinese have put in place on U.S. commodities, is having a very negative impact on our industry. Now, we are hopeful, and we've been working with the administration and Congress to try and get to some agreement with the Chinese. And I just want to be clear, we support the Trump administration's efforts to address some of the unfair, discriminatory trade and industrial policies that the Chinese have had in place for many years. But we do not believe that tariffs is the way to do that. And unfortunately, I have to be the bearer of bad news, things are not going to get better. They will get worse if we don't ease up on these tariffs. And that's going to have a real impact on, the heartland, many of the manufacturing states in the middle of the country. And I don't think that's going to bode particularly well for next year's presidential election.
We have heard from a number of farmers that they're just so uncertain about what's to come in the future that they are right now not making those large capital purchases like into new tractors, into new combines. What are you hearing from the industry?
Well, looking at the most recent sales data of tractors and combines, the news is actually not quite as grim as it's been earlier in the year. But unfortunately, and you hit it right there earlier, uncertainty is the biggest problem right now facing not only farmers but equipment manufacturers. Our members make decisions based on a number of factors, and one of them is obviously certainty in the business environment. And it's hard to plan, it's hard to invest money in new production lines, in R&D, in new facilities, in new jobs, if you don't have that certainty. So while we are optimistic, you have to be in our industry. Again, as I mentioned, we've got to get to an agreement soon here with the Chinese government. We're running out of time, and that's the message we've been delivering to the Trump administration over and over again.
Well, we certainly appreciate you advocating on behalf of farmers across rural America. Kip Eideberg with the Association of Equipment Manufacturers, thank you for joining us.